Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we spotlight innovative programs and dedicated individuals working to provide support to people facing mental health struggles. In Washington State, we meet a Hollywood star and Army captain teaming up to help veterans heal. And in Massachusetts, we speak with former Congressman Patrick J. Kennedy, who hopes his new book will reduce the stigma around mental illness and substance abuse. But we begin in Illinois, where the Cook County Sheriff's Office has created a unique program that connects officers with real-time resources when responding to calls involving a mental health crisis. National correspondent Usher Qureshi takes a look at the partnership and a warning to viewers. This story shows people in crisis and includes thoughts of suicide.
This is where the guy was. He was on the outside of the railing. I felt he was ready to jump at any second.
Seconds count. Every word counts. When you're trying to talk someone off the literal ledge.
I feel you, brother. No.
Body cam shows these critical moments in February when Officer Dave Steick was first to arrive at this bridge outside of Chicago.
My man, I need you to give me a hug. My name's Dave. Brother, I love you. All right? My friends are here, and we're going to help you back over.
While officers succeeded here, Steick admits police are not best qualified to counsel people in crisis.
They don't train you. This is exactly what you do. This is the step A through Z of how to talk someone off of a bridge. And it's not really a police thing.
1 in 4 people with a serious mental illness is arrested at some point during their lifetime. And keep in mind, they're 16 times more likely to be killed in an encounter with police.
To reduce those odds, Cook County Sheriff's officers bring mental health counselors like Ellie Montgomery to the scene virtually.
They're getting a tool that they've never had before in which they can get a mental health professional on scene in seconds.
What's the matter with him? He's harming himself.
Officers used it for the first time with this man in crisis in 2020.
You want to hold on to this for me?
Once it de-escalated, he talked to a counselor on the tablet.
I'm not that good, but I got you kind of calm down. She's a lot better at this.
The sheriff's office has a team of behavioral health experts on call 24/7 by phone or video. They helped Lachelle Wardell's grandson with his mental health and trouble at school.
What do you think would have happened if you hadn't been able to get the help that you needed through the sheriff's department?
Oh, I don't even really want to think about that, Usher. It's transformed our lives and changed the trajectory for my entire family.
How's your grandson doing now?
He's made the honor roll. I've never seen anything like this. I kind of tear up thinking about this because they walked with us and held our hand through the whole process because it was so difficult. It was very, very difficult.
The use of remote counseling on scene nearly doubled in 3 years, according to Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart.
We don't need to have 100 mental health clinicians on staff here. We are working with 15 or 16 right now, and that more than covers it because you don't have to physically be there.
This is a new program we started yesterday. I'm going to see how this works.
Getting buy-in was a challenge at first, but when officers have called for virtual backup, the sheriff's office says no one's been arrested, injured, or killed.
Can this work in other places?
I cannot think of a place where this would not work.
And it needs to work.
I'm here for you. If there's nobody else that is, then I'm here for you.
Because officers can't always make saves like this on their own.
Ahead, why a former congressman made it his mission to advocate for mental health care. That story is next. We continue our show with an important conversation about seeking help for mental health and addiction challenges. In 2022, 84 million Americans were reported to have experienced a mental health disorder, and 34 million suffered with substance abuse problems. The stigma surrounding these issues often leads individuals to suffer in silence. We sat down with former Congressman Patrick J. Kennedy and his co-author Stephen Freed to learn how their book aspires to give voice to the voiceless. All of this is the Kennedy compound.
My grandfather insisted that everybody stay together and that was the family ethos.
Yeah.
There's a point of pride Patrick J. Kennedy takes
in showing off his family home in Hyannis, Massachusetts.
So many people feel like they know it.
Well, they do know it because they've seen iconic photographs, like just here in front of this fireplace.
A picture taken the morning after his uncle, John F. Kennedy, won the presidency.
President Kennedy always kind of ribbed my dad, as did my Uncle Bobby.
His dad was the late Massachusetts Senator Ted Kennedy,
who got to serve with both of his brothers at the same time, all in public life together.
Nearly 70 years ago, his uncle JFK published Profiles in Courage, telling the stories of senators who changed America.
At his time, President Kennedy recognized that this country needed to understand about political courage in order to improve our democracy. Today, we need to understand mental health courage in order to advance our mental health system.
That's why Kennedy and author Stephen Fried wrote Profiles in Mental Health Courage, a collection of 12 stories about people who have mental illness, addiction, or both.
To be able to come out like this and tell your story is unbelievably powerful. We wish we lived in a society where it was less risky to do it, because that openness, one, allows people to deal with the illnesses, and two, it makes sure they get taken care of. Because a lot of people die or have setbacks because of their inability or their fear of being open.
It's obvious how much this means to you.
Well, I feel terrible that my own mother was suffering from alcoholism. And the way we treated my mother, myself included, was so judgmental and so dismissive of her. I mean, I look back and feel ashamed. And she became her illness in her identity as opposed to Joan Kennedy. And if we have a different system down the line, people like my mother will not have had to suffer both from the illness and the indignity that comes with suffering from the illness.
Kennedy and Fried worked together on a common struggle, published in 2016, where Kennedy opened up about his bipolar disorder and addiction.
I go to 12-step recovery. I have a psychiatrist and talk therapy. I get medication management. Still, I got to protect myself, not just from the disease of addiction, bipolar, depression, all the things that can tripwire the addiction. So you have to deal with all of this. In our system, we only deal with it in segments, and people often, and most of the time, only get one piece of the answer.
This is St. Nicholas Park.
That was the case for Tony Dreyer, who was featured in the book.
This was my home. This park bench was my living room.
This one here?
Yes. When I was homeless, this is where I slept.
She says she spent 20 years using and selling crack, getting arrested dozens of times, and losing her children to social services.
I remember being hungry. I remember being dirty.
Now counseling incarcerated people with mental illness, she is trying to reconnect with her children.
I'm not the only one. And I think that if people can hear it from a perspective of someone that's been there, they'll know that they're not alone. When I suffered in silence. And so I wanted to make sure that I got out with a loud voice, that I'm not the only one and neither are you.
I was doing lots of really bad things.
The book includes people from all walks of life.
You tango?
No, I wanted to learn once.
Including actress Gabrielle Anwar, whose emotional difficulties behind the scenes included cutting herself and flying into rages.
My symptoms or behaviors were manic, and that can be positive and negative. I mean, I was able to paint the exterior of my house in one afternoon, and I was just super functional. And then the flip side of that was incredible rage, incredible darkness, just this abyss of darkness.
Anwar wasn't diagnosed with bipolar disorder until her early 40s.
Medication mitigates the insanity.
But with her husband's support, she sought out psychiatric treatment and therapy.
I've been so open with what goes on with me chemically and with my psychology that people now say to me, you know, you seem a little off, or you seem very tired, you're sleeping too much. And so I have this constant compass surrounding me that is very helpful, and I wish that for anyone who's suffering.
Part of our goal is to make sure people understand these 12 stories are not so unique. It's only unique that you get to hear them in this kind of depth. And if we want mental illness and addiction to be taken just the same way that all other illnesses are, we have to understand what these things are like and not be shocked, but able to be sympathetic.
That sympathy can go a long way, say the authors, in lessening the stigma that leads so many to suffer in silence.
No one blames people for their cancer returning. They wrap their arms around them. They say, what can we do to get you better? And that's not the case in this country with people who are suffering from these illnesses, because we still see it as a matter of personal agency. No one gets up in the morning and puts their job at risk, puts their family relationships, puts their own life at risk. No one does that. That's not those people. That's their illness. I think these stories go a long way in helping to bring understanding to that.
Coming up, how one group is helping soldiers become storytellers. This is Eye on America. We close our show with the power of storytelling. More than 60% of veterans who served after 9/11 have experienced difficulty adjusting back to civilian life. It's one of the reasons why veteran and Top Gun star Tom Skerritt co-founded a project dedicated to helping our service members. Dana Jacobson checks out the nonprofit that's helping veterans write about their trauma.
Step up the path and the leaves get thicker. Connected from above as leaves drift gently down.
Army veteran Howard Harrison writes of loss.
And the alders that are dying, as we must all when our time comes.
His words drawn from wounds inflicted during his time in service.
Thinking of my NOM buddies who aren't enjoying this day.
His story, one of hundreds that's come to light.
She waits by the oven.
Thanks to the Seattle-based veterans program, the Red Badge Project.
9 more have been wounded.
Its mission? To help veterans work through issues like PTSD and reassimilation by teaching them the art of storytelling.
You share things there that you may not have shared with anybody else, and you feel safe in sharing that with other veterans, and you really get to know them year after year.
Harrison served as a medic in Vietnam and was suffering from PTSD when he found the writing program.
I had just became a new mother for the first time.
Crystal Dandridge, a torpedoman's mate, adjusting to civilian life after a dozen years in the Navy.
What had your transition back out of the military been like?
It was hard. I felt displaced. It just took years.
Yeah.
Until I started going to Red Badge.
You got good writing.
The nonprofit's co-founder, actor and Air Force veteran Tom Skerritt first saw the potential storytelling could have while looking for a way to help his fellow veterans who were struggling.
It starts with that wanting to help someone else rather than talking about it. I just get tired of talking about this. If I can do something about it. And this man.
Yeah, got into the picture.
Evan Bailey, who served in the Army in Iraq and Afghanistan. He met Skerritt just after returning to the States.
We had met about, the same time PTSD and these troubling numbers of veteran suicides were really starting to emerge to the forefront. And obviously you want to help, but what can you do? And so Tom had a great idea. I knew my way around the military a little bit. And so we set out to see what we could do.
Well, I know that's why you went to West Point.
The duo proved to be the perfect combination. Bailey knowing which doors to knock on, Skerritt's Hollywood resume helping open them up.
Boys, what have you done?
Movie credits from A River Runs Through It and Steel Magnolias to Top Gun.
Gentlemen, this school is about combat.
Did you have a moment of It's Viper.
Of course, right?
I had to say it.
A good pilot is compelled to always evaluate what's happening.
I gotta say, Tom is the most genuine. He is in this not because he's a celebrity, but because he cares. Right. And with these vets, you can't fake it.
About a year after meeting, in 2012, their pitch became reality.
I think it really saved my life.
With the inaugural class of the Red Badge Project working in partnership with Veteran Affairs centers and hospitals across Washington state.
Do they have feelings?
Inside the classrooms, multimedia writer Warren Etheridge,
something about the first time you get a story on the page,
and author Suzanne Morrison teach the mechanics of storytelling.
So the first stanza, it's my grandmother's hands.
Morrison leads the classes for women only.
We talk a lot about authority in this group because, that's what an author is. I am in charge here. I am in charge of my own story. I get to say what happened, and it did happen.
Stories like Dandridge's. She writes about her first day back to work at her assigned naval station after having her son. She was gifted a handmade doll by a shipmate's mother.
Alma's doll was white with blonde hair, and mine was brown with black hair. I knew immediately that my workplace was no place for my black Raggedy Andy doll, as I stood out enough by being a black female in an all-white male office.
Dandridge was the first person to arrive at work the next morning. When she opened the door,
nothing could have ever prepared my mind nor my heart for what I was about to see. My Raggedy Andy doll lynched by single rubber bands linked together to form a noose, dangling from a thumbtack, piercing my baby's picture straight through his forehead. I would hear a stern and steady voice abruptly interrupting my flow of tears by stating, "If you value your Navy career, you will not talk to NIS, Naval Investigative Services."
Dandridge says she was later informed that the person responsible received disciplinary action, but was allowed to remain in the military.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. What did sharing that initially do for you?
Reading it out the first time, it was like I gained some awareness of it, like acceptance that it happened. Like this really and truly happened. But I also gained some healing and a perspective of the whole ordeal.
Invisible battle wounds beginning to heal one page at a time.
While I was writing it, I just totally broke down.
The Red Badge Project is now in 5 cities throughout Washington, with over 1,000 veterans having taken part.
Afterwards, and the regret.
Your mission, you said you have to do something. You have done something. You've had men and women tell you you've helped save their lives. What does that mean to both of you?
Takes your breath away, because you know you did it. Can't deny that, because I was looking in your eyes like, you know me. Thank you.
I tell my kids this when they ask me what I did in the military. We take care of each other. That's what we do. And so that's what I continue to do through Red Badge.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news, stream us right here on CBS News 24/7. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.